Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, an explosion at Harvard Medical School early Saturday morning. Police released photos of two suspects after two individuals were spotted fleeing the scene. The Trump administration says payments of food aid benefits might continue by Wednesday. NTD's Arian Pasdar has more on the Treasury's effort to continue the food stamps program and to reopen the government. Despite it being an off year, there's a lot on the line in Tuesday's election. An investigator and a city council candidate join us to unpack the crucial races in New York City and Virginia. Are green vegetables and natural grains really as healthy as we think? A physician explains the perks of a meat-based diet in our preview of Vital Signs. And celebrations in Egypt's capital mark opening day for the Grand Egyptian Museum. Details on the billion-dollar project and why the Egyptian president says it marks a new chapter for the country.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Police have released photos of suspects after an explosion at Harvard University's medical school. Authorities have determined that the explosion was intentional. The Harvard Crimson says the explosion happened early Saturday at Harvard's Longwood Medical Campus. Harvard University police responded to a fire alarm just before 3 a.m. Authorities were unable to apprehend two individuals seen fleeing the building where the explosion took place. USA Today reported that the explosion occurred on the fourth floor of a campus building. The university released surveillance footage showing two suspects with hooded sweatshirts and ski masks. Meanwhile, Boston police and fire departments are helping with the investigation, and the FBI has also arrived to provide assistance. News Nation says no injuries were reported. Officers found no additional explosive devices after a sweep of the building. The Trump administration says food aid payments might continue by Wednesday. Yesterday, a court ordered the administration to continue the payments, pointing to irreparable harm without the benefits. NTD's Arian Pasdar has the latest.
The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, known as SNAP or food stamps, are meant to help low-income Americans. Food aid payments have been paused ever since the government shutdown after lawmakers couldn't agree on a funding bill to keep it running. A federal court in Rhode Island on Saturday ordered the Trump administration to resume full food stamp payments by Monday or partial payments by Wednesday. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent now says that payments might resume by Wednesday, but he's also calling on Democratic senators to join Republican colleagues in passing a continuing resolution and reopen the government.
No, but there's a process that has to be followed, so we got to figure out what the process is. President Trump wants to make sure that people get their food benefits.
So it could be done by Wednesday?
Could be.
Okay.
Could be. And 5 Democratic senators could cross the aisle and open the government by Wednesday.
The House already passed a continuing resolution a few weeks ago, but the Senate has not been able to make progress. All Republicans and 3 Democrats have voted in support of the CR, but it needs 5 more Democrats to join in order for it to pass. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman is one of the 3 Democrats who supports the bill, as he explained on Sunday.
Fundamentally, I'm deeply distressing to know that 42 million Americans are going to lose their SNAP benefits. And now that's one of the big reasons why I refuse to shutting our government down. And again, I feel like the Democrats really need to own the shutdown.
Some Americans who rely on SNAP benefits are now having a hard time trying to make ends meet.
Now we have to choose either to feed ourselves or to pay the bills.
Arian Pasdar, NTD News.
The stalemate on Capitol Hill isn't letting up. It's prompted President Trump to call on lawmakers to invoke the so-called nuclear option to bypass votes from Democrats needed to reopen the government. NTD's Melina Weiskup brings us this week's recap from Washington, D.C.
A month-long stalemate on Capitol Hill is on track to cause the longest government shutdown in history.
Things are getting really tough for the American people. The Democrats are coming near now to a cliff that they will not be able to turn back from.
Republicans are pushing for a clean bill to extend government funds, while Democrats are insisting on their health care demands.
The largest cut to Medicaid in American history, that's policy violence. And the refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
With the shutdown causing flight delays, major airlines are pressing Democrats to reopen the government.
And then you strip away their pay and say continue going to your job every day and move 3 million passengers and 45,000 flights. It's completely unacceptable. The frustration level is at an all-time high. The anger is at level 10.
Now President Trump is calling on Senate Republicans to bypass Democrats altogether. Trump wrote on Truth Social, "It is now time for Republicans to play their Trump card and go for what's called the nuclear option. Get rid of the filibuster and get rid of it now."
So we'd like to see this taken care of rapidly. You have a lot of, we have tremendous support, but it's not even support, it's common sense. Open up the country.
Nixing the filibuster would end a rule that requires 60 votes to pass most legislation, but Republican leaders appear opposed. A federal judge has ordered the government to use emergency funds to keep benefits afloat during the shutdown.
This is Congress's fault. So when it comes to SNAP, the only solution here is we need to appropriate the money.
The judge's order comes after Republican leaders refused to vote on a standalone bill to fund benefits during the shutdown.
It has Republican and Democratic support. It's a bill I'd happily support and vote for. And as soon as Thune would let Hawley put it on the House floor, it will pass. Plain and simple.
Republicans, though, insist their funding bill already replenishes these funds.
And we've tried to do that 13 times. And you voted no 13 times. This isn't a political game. These are real people's lives that we're talking about.
Amid the shutdown, senators held a hearing this week probing big tech. Senators grilled executives from Google and Meta on why they censored posts about COVID-19 and election fraud.
If anyone argues there's fraud, if anyone lays out claims, if anyone lays out evidence, the omnipotent Google in the sky will say, "No, you stupid citizens, you don't get to hear this."
We did feel pressure from the Biden administration to censor content related to COVID-19.
The Biden administration did press us to take action with regard to certain COVID-19 information that they thought should be taken down.
Senator Ted Cruz plans to push legislation that will allow individuals to sue the government for censorship. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Flight delays are frustrating passengers at major airports across the U.S. The government shutdown may be keeping more air traffic controllers home as they go without paychecks. Air travel site Flight2Where has created a map to track constantly shifting flight delay and cancellation patterns across the U.S. The Federal Aviation Administration said Friday 80% of air traffic controllers in the New York City area were absent. The agency also said 30 of the busiest airports in the U.S. are struggling with staff shortages. ABC News reports that air traffic controllers are required to work for the duration of the shutdown. If they don't show up, the FAA is forced to reduce flights for safety reasons. Meanwhile, Transportation Safety Administration workers also aren't getting paid. The White House warns the issue could disrupt Thanksgiving travel. According to the Washington Post, delays could get worse, but they started during a slow period for air travel, and mild October weather has helped limit them. From high-stakes diplomacy in Asia to controversy over new nuclear tests and a festive Halloween at the White House, NTD's Dana Monahan has your White House week in review.
President Trump was in Asia for most of the week, securing key deals and strengthening alliances. In Japan, Trump met with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi at the Royal Palace in Tokyo. The leaders signed a landmark agreement on strategic investments, rare earths, and critical minerals.
This will be a relationship that will be stronger than ever before, and I look forward to working with you.
Then it was on to South Korea, where Trump was awarded South Korea's highest honor, the Grand Order of Mugunghwa.
I can wear it right now. Thank you so much.
Washington and Seoul agreed to cut tariffs on Korean autos and auto parts to 15%, while South Korea reaffirmed its $350 billion U.S. investment commitment. Trump wrapped up the trip with a meeting with Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping.
And we're going to have a very successful meeting, I have no doubt.
Trump agreed with Xi to trim tariffs on China in exchange for Beijing cracking down on the illicit fentanyl trade, resuming U.S. soybean purchases, and keeping rare earths exports flowing.
I'll be going to China in April, and he'll be coming here sometime after that. whether it's in Florida, Palm Beach, or Washington, D.C.
Before meeting Xi, Trump ordered the Pentagon to begin conducting nuclear weapons tests again.
With others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
China has more than doubled the size of its arsenal to an estimated 600 nuclear weapons in 2025 from 300 weapons in 2020. The Arms Control Association criticized the move, saying the U.S. has no technical, military, or political reason to resume nuclear explosive testing for the first time since 1992. Nearly 20 alleged narco-terrorists were killed in multiple drug boat strikes this week. Senator Rand Paul criticized the action, saying, "We've been presented with no evidence of a crime." And Halloween was in the air in D.C. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump handed out candy to trick-or-treaters at the White House. President Trump, who once did a brief campaign stint as a McDonald's worker, greeted new drive-thru employees at the White House. The Pentagon has instructed all states and territories to form quick reaction National Guard units by January. The forces must be trained and equipped to handle domestic riots and civil disturbances. President Trump ordered in August War Secretary Pete Hegseth to establish the specialized units. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Next, Washington and Beijing are planning to set up a military hotline for direct communications. That's according to U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth. The U.S. and China are among the world's top military powers. The two are also widely seen as major rivals. Hegseth posted on X last night saying the decision followed a discussion with his counterpart, Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun, on Friday. He added that more details will come out in future bilateral meetings. Hegseth said the communication channel would assist with, quote, deconflicting and de-escalating any problems that arise. Yesterday, Hegseth met with a slew of his Asian counterparts, including Dong Jun in Malaysia. He raised concerns over what he described increasing Chinese aggressions in the South China Sea. Take a listen.
China's provocative actions also demonstrate a lack of respect for your countries, challenging and threatening territorial sovereignty. Well, I will say I welcome the dialogue. Obviously, both our President Trump and Chairman Xi have had, both myself and Dong Jun. Dialogue is important. But inside that dialogue, we are most importantly watching actions very closely. We seek peace. We do not seek conflict. But we must ensure that China is not seeking to dominate you or anybody else.
According to China's Defense Ministry press release on the recent talk with Hegseth, Beijing also agrees to enhance communications between the two countries' decision-making levels. The agreement extends to frontline troops as well. It's worth noting that China once again warned that the U.S. needs to oppose Taiwan's independence. It also threatened that Beijing is fully capable of retaliation if necessary. Washington doesn't recognize Taiwan as an independent country, but also rejects China's claim over Taiwan. During the recent Trump-Xi talk in South Korea, Xi did not mention the Taiwan issue, which is a rarity during his tenure. President Trump is back in Washington after a week of diplomacy and deals in Asia. The president ended his tour in South Korea with a high-stakes meeting with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. Following that meeting, Trump said China will buy what he calls tremendous amounts of American soybeans. He also said the U.S. will reduce fentanyl-linked tariffs on China, while Beijing pauses its planned rare earth export controls. NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Otsu brings us more from that meeting from Jeonju, South Korea.
It's going to be very strong in enforcing the fentanyl, everything having to do with fentanyl and regulations internally, including taking very strong measures against those that don't obey.
President Trump is rolling back fentanyl-related tariffs on China as he leaves his first face-to-face meeting in 6 years with CCP leader Xi Jinping.
It was 57, now it's 47. Because I believe they are really taking strong action.
Effective immediately, the 20% U.S. tariff on Chinese imports imposed due to Beijing's failure to curb exports of fentanyl ingredients is now reduced to 10%. And on talking China into buying more U.S. agriculture.
Large amounts, tremendous amounts of the soybeans and other farm products are going to be purchased immediately, starting immediately.
President Trump saying that Xi authorized China to start buying U.S. soybeans just before their meeting.
Which I appreciate it. That was a very nice gesture.
Meanwhile, President Trump declares the dispute with China over rare earths settled.
But all of the rare earth has been settled, and that's for the world.
I guess you could really say this was a worldwide situation, not just a U.S. situation.
China, which has a near monopoly on rare earths, elements that play vital roles in cars, planes, and weapons, ramped up their export restrictions on these critical minerals earlier this month. In response, President Trump signed a flurry of deals with Indo-Pacific countries, including Japan, Malaysia, and Australia, to counter Beijing's market dominance. But after his meeting with Xi,
Well, there's no roadblock at all on rare earth. That will hopefully disappear from our vocabulary for a little while.
the president says that this is part of a one-year agreement that will be negotiated every year. And minutes before his meeting with the Chinese regime leader, President Trump announces that he's directed the Department of War to immediately start testing the United States nuclear weapons on a, quote, equal basis with other countries, specifically citing China and Russia.
They seem to all be nuclear testing. We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing. We've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
President Trump also announces that China will begin to purchase American energy, even teasing what he calls a very large-scale transaction of oil and gas from Alaska. He also says that he has plans to visit China in April, after which Xi Jinping will come to visit the U.S. Reporting from Gyeongju, South Korea, Mariotsu, NTD News.
And President Trump said he will visit China next April. Coming up, what's at stake in Tuesday's election? Despite it being an off year, there's a lot on the line. An investigator and a city council candidate join us to unpack the crucial races in New York City and Virginia. And are green vegetables and natural grains really as healthy as we think? A physician explains the perks of a meat-based diet in just a minute, right after this quick break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. It might be an off year, but there are still elections on Tuesday that will be critical for this nation, from gubernatorial races in New Jersey to the closely watched mayoral race in New York City to a slew of major races in Virginia. Joining us to unpack the two most watched states this year are two guests. Victoria Manning, Virginia Beach resident and senior investigative researcher with Restoration of America, and New York City Council Republican candidate for Manhattan District 5, Alina Bonsell. Thank you both so much for joining us. Now, Alina, I want to start with you, as it seems the whole nation is watching the New York City mayoral race. Break down for us what you're watching for in this race and the main differences of these three candidates.
I mean, we just had a really crazy turnout. I mean, I expected this, obviously. This election has been on the front pages since June. It has gone viral, international. We expected voter turnout like this, but just early voting is, as of yesterday, it was 584,000 people that voted in early voting, where if you compare it to, 2021, we had in totality 64,000 votes. So we are projecting to hit over 1 million votes, which is crazy considering this is not a presidential election. So people are just so excited and they want to cast their vote. Their vote finally matters.
I want to unpack that a bit later, but Victoria, your state of Virginia is often seen as a bellwether of where the public is leaning on the presidential administration. There's a slew of races actually in that state, from governor to all seats in the House of Delegates to the high-stakes attorney general race. Give us a sense how important these are and which races the rest of the nation should keep an eye on.
We have some very important races, especially the House of Delegates in Virginia, as you mentioned. Currently, the House of Delegates, the Senate has Democrat control, and in the House of Delegates, there's a 51-49 control of Democrats. Republicans have an opportunity this year to change that, and they're hoping to make that happen and or to also gain and keep the governor's seat this year. If they don't, the Democrats can push through their pretty far left agenda, so Republicans are really focusing on that. And as Alina said, we've also had some very high turnout here in the state for early voting. We have 45 days of early voting here in Virginia. We call it election season rather than election day, and we've seen that same high voter turnout here in our state.
On that note of voter turnout, Alina, given this is an off year, what are the issues driving voters to the polls in the Big Apple?
So we looked at the early data right now, and we're seeing that the average age of a voter is 52 years old. And these are the voters. And I've been out in the streets. I've been speaking to many. They're very scared of obviously Zora and Mandami. They're worried about their tax burdens going up. They're worried about anti-Semitism rising. I live in an area where there's a lot of Jewish residents. They're worried about public safety. If he is going to be mayor, what is this going to happen? Is our police force going to resign? Their morale is going to get lowered. So they're coming out in droves and they're voting because they are scared. And that is the number one driver. They are scared.
I want to dig into that a little bit, but Victoria, first, what about in Virginia? What's bringing people to the polls in Virginia? Similar issues to New York or different ones?
In Virginia, I think affordability is one of the big issues. We have a pretty significant car tax. To own a vehicle, you have to pay an annual personal property tax that's pretty hefty. So that's been at the center of some of the campaigns. Also, sanctuary cities has been an issue. In February, the Governor Youngkin issued an executive order calling on the state police and local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. Yet the Democrat gubernatorial candidate Abigail Spanberger has promised to rescind that executive order of Governor Youngkin. So that has become a center point of these races. And then on the negative side, on the Attorney General's race, the texting scandal of Democrat Attorney General candidate Jay Jones, who threatened to, who wanted to called for the murder of one of his political opponents, and also called for the death of his children. So that's dominated the conversation in these races these last couple of weeks.
I want to get to that texting scandal issue, but first, Selena, back to you. In terms of this voter turnout, it almost seems like we're in uncharted territory when it comes to, young voters. There's a surprising number turning out. But to your point, early voting does show some of the older population coming out. So it'll be interesting to see how accurate the polls are in the end. Taking a step back here, though, what do you see the role of social media playing in this race, especially, Mamdani being quite active online versus, say, Cuomo and Sliwa?
So social media is so important. I know for a fact I'm a first-time candidate. I had no name recognition, and everybody knows my name now in my district. My posters are everywhere. We have incredible momentum. We have ground game. I'm actually doing something really innovative in New York City. I have trucks with my video playing on loop, discussing my platforms, my background, and also telling voters that I will be the voice of reason in a very left liberal city hall. We have right now 51 council seats. Every seat is up for re-election, and there's only 6 Republicans. We have a left supermajority. So these videos are continuously playing, and all the candidates that either my opponent or even the mayors, they're all trying to get these trucks right now. These trucks are innovative. They're a gold mine. They are the new way of campaigning right now. So this is also driving voters out. I had so many people come up to me and they said, we're Democrats, but we're voting for you. We're voting down the party line for everybody else, but we're voting for you. And then there's some that are just saying, you know what, we're no longer voting blue. We're voting party line down red. So it is a mixed bag. So it's really interesting to see where we land.
Definitely a lot to unpack there, and quite interesting, as you pointed out. Victoria, though, I want to go back to that text message scandal that is plaguing Jay Jones. How has that been playing out in the state? Is that affecting other races in Virginia?
I do believe it is affecting other races. Jason Miyares has seen a big bump in his campaign. He is now ahead by most polls by at least 5 points. And we've seen the governor's race as well as lieutenant governor's race tighten. The last poll that I saw from just a couple of days ago has Winsome Earl Sears just 4 points behind. And a few weeks ago, she was over 10 points behind. So I do think that that is impacting the other races because there has not been one Democrat who has called for Jay Jones to pull out of the race. So I do think that that is significantly impacting those races.
And Alina, as you mentioned, there's that supermajority right now that the Democrats have in New York City. Given that the polling is showing Mamdani still in the lead right now, talk to us about what happens to New York City if he does become mayor. Can he do all the things he's promising, like raising taxes, government grocery stores, free buses, freezing rent?
So this is actually a very big disconnect that I feel that media in our city is doing a disservice. They're not really educating voters, and a lot of them are scared because they believe that he can do all of this when the reality is that he can't. because any piece of legislation has to first go through City Hall. However, if we reelect the same left supermajority, then guess what? They're going to do what he proposes, right? And that is the real danger. So that is our opportunity to elect new people, me, like myself, who's running on the Republican ballot. There's a lot of people running on the independent ballot. As long as we have 26 reasonable voices, right now we have only 6 Republicans running for re-election, then we have a way to slow him down and stop him, because in reality, he cannot raise the taxes. He cannot create government-run grocery stores. He cannot, do anything that he has been so publicized to want to do, because we have a firewall, and that's City Hall.
Definitely a lot to watch for there, for sure. Victoria, expanding on that, actually, given your own research here, what do you think is missing from these conversations, whether that's in New York or Virginia or elsewhere, as people head to the polls?
So I think one thing that we need to highlight is what happened this week in the state legislature. The Democrats called back a special session, and they voted and pushed through some redistricting measures. It's the first step toward a constitutional amendment to change our redistricting procedures. Just a few years ago, Virginians voted overwhelmingly to have a bipartisan commission that would construct district maps for redistricting. And the Democrats want to undo that. They see this as a path to gaining more congressional seats. So if the Democrats have control after this election, they're going to push that through next year and then put a referendum on the ballot, which could change our congressional maps.
Definitely a lot at stake here, for sure. Victoria Manning, Alina Monsell, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. For decades, eating plenty of green vegetables and natural grains has been widely seen as the foundation of a healthy diet. But is this diet really as healthy as we think it is? In this episode of Vital Signs, physician Dr. Anthony Chaffee joined host Brendan Fallon to explain why a plant-based diet could actually be toxic and how your body could benefit from eating nothing but meat, eggs, and fat instead.
We're all familiar with the food pyramid, right? Launched in 1992 by the USDA, it placed refined carbohydrates like white bread, cereal, rice, and pasta at the bottom as the foods we should eat the most of. It placed fats, including saturated fats like butter, cream, and tallow, at the top as the items to eat sparingly. Meat it placed one step below that, to be consumed in relative moderation. Of course, there have been various variations on this model over the decades, but the themes of carbs over protein and everything over fats has stayed fairly consistent. But what kinds of results are we really seeing from this dietary advice over the decades? And in light of medical advances and seemingly sound dietary advice, why is the cancer death rate for those under 50 actually increasing? My guest today, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, says conventional dietary advice is the prime reason. He's at the vanguard of a movement that's turning such wisdom on its head, eating nothing but meat, eggs, and fat via the carnivore diet. Now he'll share what prompted him to take this drastic step. From the immune to the metabolic systems, he'll reveal how eating carnivore can prevent and even fight cancer. And he'll share the foundational principles for starting on this diet. Dr. Chaffee is an American medical doctor in Australia. Welcome to Vital Signs, where we learn how to get healthier from all angles, from the biochemical and nutritional to the things we do that nourish our minds and our souls. I'm Brendan Fallon. Dr. Chaffee, wonderful to have you join us on Vital Signs today. There's so many different things I want to talk to you about, the potential role of carnivore for cancer, and also just how some beginner steps for someone wanting to start this kind of diet. Firstly, though, I'm really interested to just get a snapshot of how you came to be carnivore and how long this has been going on for.
Well, I started eating this way when I was in my early 20s, so I'm 45 now, so it's about 25 years ago, and it was a bit random. I wasn't trying to do the carnivore diet. It wasn't anything called that at the time, but I had been taking biology and botany at the University of Washington in Seattle in my undergraduate studies, and I had a professor of cancer biology, coincidentally enough, who convinced us that eating vegetables was a really bad idea, that these plants defend themselves by being toxic. They're living organisms, and all living organisms have defenses against predation. And while animals can run away or fight back, plants can't. They're stationary. So they make about 1 million different defensive chemicals in order to protect against being eaten. And this is something I'd already studied in botany, so it did make sense from that standpoint. But he put in the context of fruits and vegetables, produce and grains that we would eat on a daily basis. And he showed us a list that he had put together with the numbers of carcinogens next to each produce item and grain. And there were dozens and dozens of known carcinogens in these produce items, plants, grains, fruits, vegetables, things like that.
Was he basically saying it's just plants, vegetables are out across the board?
Yes, so he was saying that this is just their natural defense. Some of them are going to be more toxic than others. I mean, we even have this concept generally that people generally understand of edible versus non-edible plants. Plants that are non-edible, they're so toxic that they will kill you or make you extremely sick, even with a small amount. And so you have to be very careful. If you get lost in the woods and you run out of food, you can't just eat any random plant because they can make you very sick or you can die. You have to know exactly which ones are safe to eat, but safe doesn't necessarily mean that they're 100% good for you or 100% safe. It just means that they're not so acutely harmful that they will kill you in that moment. But there are many things that in lower doses can make you sick long term. And we even know this in veterinary medicine. There are diseases, things like big head, big tongue, limp neck, crazy cow syndrome. Those are all so-called diseases that we see in livestock when they start eating plants that they're not designed to eat. So these are full herbivores that only eat plants their entire life. And yet if they eat the wrong plants, they can get very sick or even die. And so what he was pointing out, what my professor was pointing out, was that we get these diseases too. We get sick as well. But it's just on sort of in such a way that we don't recognize that it's poison because it's a slower poison. And he expressed to us that he didn't eat vegetables. He wouldn't eat salad. He wouldn't let his children eat vegetables or salad. And then he just said to us, plants are trying to kill you. These are not your friends. This is not the Garden of Eden. We are not here to, these are not here for us. And that left a lasting impression upon me.
To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
Every year, runners from around the world come to New York City to take part in its famous 26-mile marathon. NTD's Sean Marshall spoke with some of the runners before the big event to get some of their stories.
The New York City Marathon, a race so serious that most just hope to make it to the finish line. Before the race, runners were at the Marathon Expo presented by New Balance to register, buy gear, get info, and enjoy some activities. The place was bursting with all types of energy, with each participant entering the race for different reasons.
4 years ago, I ran through the Central Park, and I decided that it's my biggest dream to run the New York City Marathon.
Oh, it's just been a lifelong goal. It's, I've run probably 4 or 5 marathons and I always wanted to do the big one.
It's just always been a goal of mine to do a marathon, and the New York Marathon's the best one to do, so I was very excited about it.
Luckily for the crowd and runners, it's all clear skies for the weather on race day. This year, NTD's morning show producer, Chenchi Gao, is racing. Training for a marathon while working a full-time job can't be easy, but people find a way. Many trials and hurdles can get in the way of reaching the finish line.
We have trained many years actually to get here, because it's not easy. This is one of the hardest one actually to qualify.
Yeah, I had a couple of injuries, but the setback is sometimes the breakthrough, so you just have to keep on going and train hard. And I'm very happy to start on Sunday.
No injuries, luckily, but just training in general is tough, so mentally getting through that was probably the biggest hurdle.
The Marathon Expo had a little bit of everything in the world of running and tons of assistance for making it through the race, even for the spectators.
So we're FitSafe. We believe that women should feel safe while running. So we developed a fitness brand over here that has a lot of pockets. It features safety devices like this so that women can always feel comfortable. We can put them in our pocket here. We have a phone pocket here, and yeah, we're all about running freely and living boldly.
We have a couple of tips for anyone out there thinking about running in a marathon.
Don't overthink it. Just sign up and you'll get yourself through it.
It's mind over matter, and you know, it's one of the best things that I've ever found in life is being able to get out there on the open road. It's meditative. Marathon running is fantastic.
No injury. Don't give up. Yeah, this is not easy, especially in New York. It's not easy to come here, so we're really glad.
And this year's winners are Helen Obiri of Kenya and Benson Caputo, finishing just 1 second faster than Alexander Matiso. Marcel Hug of Switzerland won the men's wheelchair race, and Susanna Scaroni of the USA won the women's wheelchair race. At the time of this recording, NTD's Chenchi Gao is about 2 hours into the race and close to reaching the halfway point with his racing group. Maybe next year he'll wear an NTD hat and advertise for the company. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
After celebrating Halloween this weekend, most Americans will get an extra hour of sleep. Daylight saving time ends today, and our clocks will fall back 1 hour. It happens while most of us sleep, as 2 a.m. becomes 1 a.m. The time change also means our days will be shorter and nights will be longer as the official start date of winter gets closer. Daylight saving time for most of the United States and many other countries begins in March when our clocks skip forward 1 hour. It ends on the first Sunday in November. The practice began in Europe and the U.S. during World War I to save fuel and power. In the U.S., states are not required by law to fall back or spring forward. Hawaii, most of Arizona, and some territories in the Pacific and Caribbean do not observe daylight saving time. Beyond the annual time change, adjusting the clocks also means people have to tinker with their internal clocks. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on how to keep your circadian rhythm healthy.
Americans will get an extra hour of shut-eye when the clocks roll back into Standard Time Sunday. Standard Time will last until March 8th, when Daylight Saving Time returns. Jamie Zeitzer at Stanford's Center for Sleep and Circadian Sciences explains how our internal clocks keep ticking.
You have a central circadian clock, and it is basically a clock that's inside your brain. And it's a 24-hour clock, or a near 24-hour clock, that needs to get synchronized to our 24-hour day.
The American Medical Association and American Academy of Sleep Medicine have long advocated for standard time year-round. New research from Stanford finds that switching back and forth is the worst option for our health. Zeitzer says there's a natural remedy.
Getting early morning light is great. So when you wake up, get that light, and that'll help accelerate the switch faster.
If light first thing isn't feasible, there are other options.
If you can, go outside. If not, try to be in a brightly lit room as much as possible, or sit by a window. This will help facilitate kind of shifting your clock faster in the fall.
Most countries do not observe daylight saving time. In the U.S., Arizona and Hawaii don't change and stay on standard time. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, celebrations in Egypt's capital mark opening day for the Grand Egyptian Museum. Details on the billion-dollar project and why the Egyptian president says it marks a new chapter for the country. And a new exhibition in Germany invites visitors to experience history through their noses. Find out exactly what's in store in just a minute here on NTD News. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Let's now go to Egypt's capital, Cairo. A drone light show lit up the skies there this weekend, part of the opening ceremony for the Grand Egyptian Museum. The Egyptian president says it marks a new chapter for the country.
Today, as we celebrate together the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum, we write a new chapter in the history of the present and the future, in the tale of this ancient nation. This is the biggest museum in the world, dedicated to a single civilization, Egypt's civilization, whose glamour and grace never dim. I invite you to enjoy this ceremony and to make this museum a platform for dialogue, a destination for knowledge, a forum for humanity. and a beacon for all who love life and believe in the value of humankind. Long live Egypt and long live humanity.
The museum is located near two of the country's most famous landmarks, the Giza Pyramids and the Sphinx. The museum is one of several mega projects championed by the Egyptian president since he took office in 2014. The goal is to revive the nation's weakened economy and combat the after effects of the 2011 Arab Spring uprising. The president posed with delegates from more than 70 countries, including members of the royal families from Belgium, Spain, Denmark, Jordan, Gulf nations, and Japan, plus other officials from Europe. The $1 billion project is expected to attract 5 million visitors annually. That would put it in the realm of the most popular museums in the world, among the Louvre in Paris, the British Museum, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. A celebrity wedding crasher made one couple's special day. The ceremony had a Middle-earth theme fit for a hobbit, and the crasher just so happens to be a former Lord of the Rings. Take a look.
Watch a Hobbit-themed wedding in New Zealand get a dose of star power thanks to a very unexpected wedding crasher. It's been nearly 24 years since the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy took the world by storm after being filmed on location in New Zealand. Part of the production took place at a massive constructed Shire set that's now a popular tourist attraction called Hobbiton, where guests can tour the set, enjoy elaborate feasts, and even host fairy tale-style weddings. That is exactly what was happening when actor Elijah Wood, who happened to be visiting the set, suddenly decided to crash the ceremony. The couple and their guests were suitably starstruck by the Frodo Baggins actor's off-the-cuff cameo and enjoyed a few moments of glad-handing and photos before continuing on with the ceremony. And even though no one thought to ask him to be the ring bearer, hello, it was still a matrimonial Middle-earth movie magic moment that can only be described as precious.
Researchers from the University of Washington are testing out new underwater tech. They're trying to adapt the cable undersea cables that carry your internet data to help save endangered orcas. Here's a closer look.
As dawn broke over San Juan Island, a team of scientists stood on the deck of a barge and unspooled over a mile of fiber optic cable into the frigid waters of the Salish Sea. Working by headlamp, they fed the line from the rocky shore down to the seafloor, home to the region's orcas.
So our hope is to use this technology here to test the sensitivity of the fiber optic cables for detecting vocalizations by marine mammals.
The bet is that the same hair-thin strands that carry internet signals can be transformed into a continuous underwater microphone to capture the clicks, calls, and whistles of passing whales, information that could reveal how they respond to ship traffic, food scarcity, and environmental changes.
And we are testing to see if this technology is sensitive enough so we can use it on regular telecom cables that are already installed. So taking advantage of the infrastructure that we already have.
If the experiment works, the thousands of miles of fiber optic cables that already crisscross the ocean floor could be turned into a vast listening network that could inform conservation efforts worldwide. Now, University of Washington scientists are adapting it to listen to the ocean. Unlike traditional hydrophones that listen from a single spot, DAS turns the entire cable into a sensor, allowing it to pinpoint the exact location of an animal and determine the direction it's heading.
Orcas, in particular, are culturally significant animals in the region, and they are endangered. And so we are really eager to know, in our own backyard, what can we learn about them?
The stakes are high. The southern resident orcas that frequent the Salish Sea are endangered, with a population hovering around 75. If DAS works as hoped, it could provide real-time information to help protect the whales. If the system detects orcas heading south towards Seattle and calculates their travel speed, scientists could alert Washington state ferries to postpone noisy activities or to slow down until the whales pass.
Ever wondered what the medieval streets of Paris smelled like? What about love or the sacred fragrance of religion? A new exhibition in Germany invites visitors to experience history through their noses by sniffing their way through 81 different fragrances across 37 different galleries.
Scents are purely emotional, the only sensory stimulus that cannot be rationally filtered. It goes directly to the limbic system. It is always immediate in such a way that it creates emotions.
That's really exciting, just to smell how the Parisian backstreet smelled, or now in this sacred space. How everything smells of incense. Exciting, just to connect art with scents.
Here it's about infinity in this artwork. So it's an elevator shaft that you can basically look into, which goes into infinity. And there we used the scent of space, which we recreated for NASA, so that you can basically smell infinity.
The Secret Power of Scents opens to the public on Wednesday in the western city of Dusseldorf. It combines fragrances with art, taking visitors on a journey of more than 1,000 years of cultural history. The exhibition follows a chronological order from religious artifacts of the Middle Ages through to contemporary art of the 21st century. Scents trigger emotional reactions more strongly than any other sense. So it's no surprise that some visitors almost retreat in fear when they press a button in a gallery recreating the smell of World War I. On the other side of the fragrance spectrum, there's the Venus and Adonis painting from 1610 by Flemish artist Peter Paul Rubens showing two lovers. The smells diffused here are dominated by roses and the scent of the civet, a cat whose scent was considered erotic in the 17th century but made today's visitors turn up their noses in disgust. Certain smells also connect to different eras of history. Pressing the button to release the stench of medieval Paris made some visitors choke when they inhaled a mix of canalization, mold, and unwashed bodies. The museum's Director General says the exhibition aims to shed light on the significance of scents in religion, politics, art, consumerism, and science. And that's all for today's news. Round the clock coverage. Visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.